Hey Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. I'm back again today with my regularly scheduled program. I'm just going to show you what I've been stitching on this week. I've had a few finishes. I've made a few project bags and just give you some ideas of what's rolling around in my mind other than my whips and my stash. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that have watched the stashing and whip parade videos from this week. I've actually enjoyed it very much. It's taken my mind off of current events. It's given me an opportunity once again to go back through my whips and see what jumps out at me, what I may want to finish this year, and to go through my stash and rediscover new old things that I had forgotten that I had. And it's just been a great experience. I've gotten so much wonderful feedback, lovely comments. I've just truly enjoyed it. So I will be returning to work. I've been released by my doctor to go back to work starting tomorrow. So I am actually looking forward to that, getting back to something that's a little more normal, even with current events. I'm just happy to be going back. But in the meantime, as far as doing the videos, I still will continue to do them. Because I don't do the editing and I don't have the titles at the beginning of my videos. I just shoot my videos and go. And so I think that I should be able to keep up and to continue to do them. They'll just be later on in the day. But once again, thanks for everyone that's left a comment, has asked a question, have just given it, the whole experience has been positive. And I've never filmed videos daily like that, and I didn't know what to expect, and it's been overall, it's been a positive experience, it seems like, for both those watching and for me that's doing the filming. So thank you all for that. It's all because of you guys, so thank you for that. So this week, before I did the videos, I would also show what I planned on finishing that day. So I finished a few things this week, and it's a great feeling because I'm being productive and I'm using things that I already have here in the home to do the finishing, as well as I'm using things up that instead of going out and buying new things. So I'm searching through what I have, using what's on hand because I can't run to the store, or let me just say, my state is not, as of far as I know, it's not yet on lockdown. There are still shops that are open, but I'm just one of those that, I don't want to take the chance. So I'm not going into town, and it's just, once again, it's still been a blessing. It's been a blessing to be home and to catch up on household chores and to do some yard work, and we're cooking at home every day, and that's been great. So there's always a positive even in the negative, if you look for it, and I'm just choosing to look for it. I don't want to focus on the negative. So anyway, let me show you what I've finished this week. So I started off this week with doing some project bags, and these are fabrics that I've shown you in the past. And I'm just now getting around to doing the bags. So I made 4 different bags. 3 are made in the project envelope, as a project envelope with just a little Velcro closure. And this is using Vanna's tutorial. You can find it on her Flosstube channel, Vanna the Twisted Stitcher. I believe she calls them envelope pouches. The only difference that I did with them is just the Velcro closure. She uses strips of Velcro that she actually sews the Velcro into the pouches, and I'm using the adhesive ones. And I've found when I use these, they work just as well. I've not had any problem with them coming coming off. I do, when I'm doing the final iron on these pieces, I do gently iron right there, and I think it may heat that glue up and spread it out a little bit and make it adhere a little better. But anyway, there's this one. This is the inner fabric. and the outer. And this fabric was a gift from Deborah Canopy Stitches. She sent this to me last year with a sweet little design, a pattern I mean. It is the companion piece to Susan Rambo. It's the same little girl that stitched Susan Rambo also stitched the other one, and she gifted it to me. So thank you once again, Deborah, but this is the pattern that she gifted me. This is my favorite, I think. Well, I'm not going to say favorite because I love them all, but I really like this fabric. And since Christy, what is your Flosstube name? Christy, I'm sorry, you know who you are. That has a thing for Pincushion tomatoes. She's really drawn my eye to them this year. But I did have this, I bought this fabric last year, and after hearing how she wants to do a tomato pincushion year with her stitching, this piece makes me think of her. So there's this piece, and then this is the inner fabric that I did. And once again, the Velcro closure. And then I have one more, and I love this fabric too. This is, I'm going to show you just the front. It's little hula girls. Aloha. So there's this, and once again, this is the inside fabric. Bright, happy, cheerful. Something to put a smile on my face this week. I really like this fabric as well. And then I tried something new. I was out with my family, and we were just shopping at, I guess you would call it a discount store. I'm not really fond of the store, but I went in there that day, and we were actually looking for books for the baby. So we picked up a few books, and I'm just browsing, and I ran across a tablecloth and placemats for a patriotic tablecloth, and I'm thinking, we're always doing barbecues and get-togethers and meals at my house, and I'm thinking 4th of July, picnic table, my mind's going the decorations for the 4th of July holiday. And so I picked up a couple extra of the project pouches. I didn't say project pouch, I meant placemats. And I decided just to sew them up as project bags. So here it is. And I used the Velcro closure again, but all I did is just like you would do with a piece of paper. If, there's been times in the past where people have taken just a piece of paper and folded it over 3 times, stapled it, or put a sticker to close the flap, and used those as envelopes to mail things. And this is basically the same concept. So all I did was fold it over 3 times, and then I tried to stitch in the ditch, which means I was trying to use the stitching that was already there for the placemat. And I stitched on top of that, which is stitching in the ditch. So I stitched on top of the stitching that was already there. And that's it. So you're basically you're folding it over 3 times. You're doing a seam here, all the way down, and the same on the other side. And of course, I back stitched here and down at the corner to give it a little more stability. But you're making 2 stitches. You can have this knocked out in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And think of the possibilities. Now, I would be careful when if you decide to do this, as to what type of tablecloths you use, because some are more floppy than others. This one just happened to be starched really well. The fabric's kind of stiff, as you can see, kind of stands up on its own. It's not flimsy. I didn't have to do anything to stabilize the fabric. It was already stabilized, and it's Americana, which I love, so I love this. I would like to put maybe the addition of either a pin or a button to match it, just to break up the pattern a little bit. But overall, I'm very pleased with this. Very, very pleased. and I would definitely do them again. I also finished, I had a Blackbird design called In Full Glory, and I've had it for some time. I finished it last year, and I just hadn't finished it up. So I had in my mind what I wanted to do was to pick up some antique, I say antique, but military buttons and pins from the antique shop. So I had a little container of those buttons, and so I sat down, pulled out some wool threads that I've had for wool fabric that I've had for some time that I hadn't used, and this is my finish. So I have these buttons here, and if I'm not mistaken, this is Army. I'm not sure about this one. I would think Army too. Of course, Navy. And then this is the star buttons or star pin it's from Jacob's NJROTC time in high school. This was his sophomore year. Of course, he had 2 years in, so this is his pins from that year. And my plan was to use this khaki color wool over the whole thing. I cut the fabric before it wasn't a large piece, but it was a wool, and I cut it incorrectly. Before I realized, of course, I didn't realize my mistake until after, but I had cut the piece without allowing room for the seam allowance, so I couldn't use it. And I thought, well, I'll just piece together 3 pieces and do it that way. So I pulled out another piece that I had, and this is just a cream color. And of course, this is where beneath this ribbon is where I actually stuffed it. I have both polyfill stuffing and some wood shavings. I can't think. Sawdust. It's sawdust. So I have both sawdust and polyfill inside. And like I said, and then I just, using just a few tiny little stitches in the white, with white thread, I put little darts to hold that down over the seam. And then this button, I didn't quite get it in the center, but really, who's going to be looking at the back? You're going to be looking at the front. The only other thing I'm not very happy with is I didn't consider that this button would be flopping around. It is stuck on really well, so it's not going to come off, but it's a button, so it's flopping, and I wish maybe I had put that on the bottom. But overall, I'm very happy with this little piece. I think it turned out perfectly. And then the following day after that, I was to attend the Samplery Guild of Georgia retreat this past weekend, and of course it was canceled. Weekend before last, sorry. And it was canceled due to everything that's going on. This is the freebie piece or the kit that we received at the retreat last year. So I wanted to finish it up so that I could have it on hand for the Samplery Guild retreat this year. And I had it finished, but not fully finished. And then it was canceled. So I just didn't have the desire to try to finish it up before. That is, until this week. So this is Queen Bee Pincushion by Heartstring Samplery. I am very happy with the finishing on this piece. I think it turned out beautifully. What I finished it on was the lid of a paper mache box. So I still have the bottom cylinder of the box. I just painted it brown, and I should have waxed it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I never did wax it. Maybe I can still wax it. Okay. So, but I painted it brown, and then I cut out a piece of mat board and 4 different pieces of batting. And then I centered this piece over the top of the batting, over the mat board, laced it on the bottom, and then I took this trim, this pom-pom trim, and sewed it to the edges of the circle, and then went back and sewed on the rickrack. And I tried to put the rickrack, place it in such a way that the edges of it would show. Now this is finished very similarly to the way Beth Twist had it finished on the cover of this pattern, but she had it, I believe, was on a Long Elm Lane box, and I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly how much those cost, but I'm sure it's a lot more than the $1 or so I paid for this box. The problem came in when I was trying to finish it, in that, of course, I know to allow some allowance for the edges of the mat board for the finishing. The batting does not overhang the edges of the mat board, but the piece does. So I knew to add a little extra room for that, as well as for the trim, but I didn't leave enough. So if you do try to finish it in this way, remember, it's not just the fabric that's going to overhang the edges, it's also going to be the pom-pom trim and the rickrack, as well as the thread for the stitches to tack it down. So I had a little problem getting it to stick, and I solved that problem by, when I painted this, the moisture from the paint will cause it to shift and misshape a little bit. So knowing that, what I did was wet my fingers and gently pulled on the edges of the box. Then I cut tiny little slits about every 1.5 inches or so, and I gently pulled them out to allow for the extra seam. So it actually turned out pretty well, but I did have trouble getting that down. But to hold it in place, I just took some of the Aleene's tacky glue after I got the edges flared out, the edges of the box. I just took the Aleene's glue and painted a thick layer of it in this inside, and I had a big needle that, as I was pushing this down, I was also using the needle to push down the inside edges of the rickrack. And once again, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think it's beautiful. And hopefully by next year, everything will be back to normal, and I will take this for the show and tell table at the retreat. Then yesterday, I picked up another piece that I had not finished yet, and it's just a little wooden box. And when I went and visited a few months ago my friends Mary and Donna, we painted these boxes. We sandpapered them, sanded them, that we waxed them, and they were just going to hold our scissors or our threads next to our stitching spot. And I had gifted everyone one of these little bears. They were actually Christmas ornaments, but that weekend we were starting Smoky Mountain Christmas. And Smoky Mountain Christmas is a winter scene of Santa with a sleigh full of toys, and it's being pulled by two black bears. So that was just as a memento to remember that weekend. And as you can see, you can put this by your stitch spot. So what I did to finish it yesterday was I took a piece of mat board again, and I cut it to the dimensions of the inside of this tray. And I had this gingham fabric. I covered it with the mat board with 2 layers of batting. And then I covered the back with double-sided tape, folded over the fabric, folded it in, and it's not going to come out. It's taped in there. And then it's just going to, like I said, it's going to sit like this. It's just a tiny display up in my little stitch room. And also, I found a friend come over right before all of this started happening, and she's a stitcher, and she's plundering in my room, which, you know, it's like like a little treasure chest. As a little girl, my grandmother had a sewing machine, and the sewing machine, the stool of the machine would lift up, and that's where she would keep her scissors and her pen books and her lace, just you know what's in there. You can picture in your mind the spools of thread and all the pinking shears and everything that would be in there. And as a little girl, that was a treasure chest. So my friend Karen comes over and she's digging through my room, which the whole thing is a treasure chest. And she opened a box that had these in it, and I had forgotten about them. And they were just square ornaments. They look glass, but they're not. They're plastic. And I bought a pack of 2 of them. I love the shape of them because they were different. And I bought these at A.C. Moore in Myrtle Beach a few years ago when the last Pals Retreat. And I wanted to use them for an ornament because I would love to have one day have a tree in my craft room at Christmas with ornaments and these. And I would like to get 2020 put on this, and this to be all my orts for the year. And as you can see already, I've stuffed it with what I had, and this is all Rose Quaker. And this right here for right now is the fall, which is what I'm stitching on. I finished a couple small things already this year, but overall that's the main pieces that are in here. But all of my orts for the year are in here so far. So by the end of the year, it should be stuffed and it should be full. And 2020 will be on here, and hopefully I'll have a small, if only a Charlie Brown tree, I'll have a small tree upstairs that I can display this. So those are my things. Now, let's get to my whips. I've got 3 things that I'm working on. One is for the baby. I have outlined, this is, you know what, I need to show. I always forget that I need to show the pattern cover. This is Alphabet Zoo by Blue Ribbon Designs. And it calls for a cranberry colored silk thread. But I decided, and it comes off, of course, a little more pinkish. And I wanted to do it in a gender neutral color. So I started it in DMC 3362. And of course, this is A. And this is an aardvark, and we have a few ants already. And those ants are just as cute as they can be. I hope you can see them clearly. So I'm only putting a thread in this here or there. I'm not working on it every day because I'm monogamously stitching on the Fall by Barbara Anna. But this week, after one of my my whip videos, my friend Donna of D Squared here on Flosstube, this is not wanting to go in there. Hold on just a second. She contacted me and challenged me to pick up a piece that we had both bought together and started together at the first Nico apartment class at Sassy Jack's a couple years ago. And she said, let's work on this together. And I said, well, what do you have in mind? And after a little bit of conversation, we decided we're going to do 1 letter a day. And then to be accountable for doing that letter, we're going to take a picture and send it to each other every day of the progress on this piece. And this is Karoline Beringer by Summerhouse Stitchworkes. So I already had it as a whip, so did she. We've both pulled it out. And I want to show you our progress. It's done in silk threads, not silk, wool threads, which are luscious. And about these threads, I'm having problems, and I'll try to show you, with them being fuzzy. And so my friend Charlene here, as well as another lady, commented that maybe I should use a larger needle. Well, the needle isn't the problem. The problem is, and I looked at it today, and it's the red, the ones that have the red tint shades of dye in there, the Buckeye Scarlet and this Strawberry Parfait. When you look at the stitches on the fabric, you can see the fuzzes around them. It gives a minute look of it. thread's bleeding, and that's not what's happening. It's just the fuzz. And of course my eyes are not what they used to be, and so I know that if I can see it without my glasses, then others can see it as well. But overall, I am happy with the piece. It's stitched on 32 count toasted almond hand-dyed by Stephanie, and this is the piece. So I've completed this row this week, and then this row here has been started this week. So even though we committed to only one letter each day, like today I did Y and B, I'm not using a whole strand of thread to do the Y, so I finished the Y, popped over, did the B, and I still had a small length of that color, which is, I think, April Showers, and it was still on the card, so I pulled that off, finished my B up. But this is it, and let me see, I don't know if you can see it, especially that G. Let me take myself out of the video. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just really fuzzy. And this line here, it's the same way. It looks like it's looks like it's bled just a tad into the fabric. And it's not that it's bled, it is just the fuzzy thread. So do I like these threads overall? I don't. It's not the stitching with them that's the problem. You do have to use shorter lengths because they will fuzz. You do have to use a larger needle, which is not a problem. The problem is once they're stitched, they're fuzzy. So if you know a way to get around that other than probably waxing the threads, if you know a way around that because you use these in quilting or something, please leave a comment below, because I'm interested to see what those that are more familiar with the wool threads, what kind of advice you could give me. All right. Let me also show you my monogamous piece, which is, am I really stitching monogamously if I'm stitching on those every day? I'm still going to say yes, because I spend 98% of my time stitching on this piece. I finally finished all the words. I don't mind stitching words, but this was a hard pill to swallow, all those words. So this week I dropped down into the motifs at the bottom, which made me so very happy. Isn't this gorgeous? I believe this is a reproduction sampler. I will read over the design later and comment next week to let you know for sure. I believe it is a reproduction piece. But I just love the use of color, so I don't know if this is an actual design from Barbara Anna or if this is a reproduction. But the little girl, if it's a reproduction, the little girl that chose these colors, I love them. Lots of teal. So let me get closer on what I've worked on this week. So I finished this banding here, all those motifs there, as well as I've gotten started on the yard in front of the house. I teased last night on Instagram about this lady's hands. Look at them. She has flippers for hands. And this is a basket, but either the fruit's rotten or that's malted milk balls or Cocoa Puffs. I am in love with this bird here. It's a parrot, I'm assuming. I really like this. I do. I'm teasing about the motifs because it's fun. But I can't figure out why she has flippers for arms. Unless, that's a hawk and she's got that leather covering to keep, the talons from ripping into her arm. Excuse me. So that's what I have for you for this week. I'm going to show you one time, the entire piece. I hope everyone continues to stay safe, to stay well, to cross all the stitches, to watch all the Flosstube, to stay as positive as we all possibly can in these days. And until next time, hugs and stitches. See you soon. Bye-bye.